This episode of Doom Room is brought to you by the letter R. R. Reevaluation. Hi, skeleton dude from the other side of your screen. That's me. And what you just saw was my impression of me at the end of this video, after I tell you some of my wonderful little opinions. Because people are very open and accepting of opinions that aren't their own. So as the title would cheekily suggest, I wanted to throw into the ether some movies I ended up flip-flopping my opinion on. These movies that either I didn't like the first time, or maybe I did like them the first time I watched them, and then maybe I either just came around to liking them, or just didn't find them as good the next time I watched them. And please note, this is just my opinion. So, if you feel the need to flay me alive or do bodily harm to me, pitchforks and torches are over there, and my flesh and organs are at these coordinates right here. I identify as a skeleton on the internet, so I don't need them anyway. So, without further ado, movies. First, Deadpool 2. Originally, I was in the camp that really thought that first Deadpool movie was just lightning in a bottle. It was fun, roariously funny, and it had great character arcs at its core. And while I thought the second one was good, and that it was a clear attempt at making a bigger, bolder movie than the first, something just didn't click with me the first watch. That was until years later I had nothing better to do, so I decided to watch it again. While I think the first movie is more structured and a more functional movie than the second, that second watching of 2 awoke something. It was really funny, the jokes landed a bit better, the bolder opening title sequence was a bop, and super cool, and the use of more obscure Marvel characters that wouldn't really get their full glory, and the use of more obscure Marvel characters that you wouldn't really get in their full comic book glory outside of tee-hee ha-ha cheeky funny comedy, and the more interesting risks that it took for the sake of the comedy, self-aware music cues, Deadpool doing all the wrong things that end up propelling the plot, character setups being completely left-turned. It was great. It might have been a little less coherent of a story, but it was faster paced, punchier, and even better than I remembered. The experience being taken from, it was good, not spectacular, to, what the heck was I thinking? Holy... It was just magical. I could see myself throwing this one on a little more often than the first movie. That one being a little bit slower upon my second watching or two. This one is definitely a new comedy classic for me, and was probably the better direction for a sequel than just repeating the first. Cause then we got the gold mine that was. Freaking love that movie. Next movie on the docket is by a director that needs no introduction. But I already made one because I'm a Kubrick fanboy here. It's Stanley Kubrick, everyone! And the crowd goes wild. Ah. Okay, I couldn't get Kubrick because, well, he's dead. He's very, very much dead. But if he was here, he wouldn't be on my stupid little show. He's awesome and all that. Also, I think 2001: A Space Odyssey is slightly overrated. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hear me out. It's beautifully shot. The sets are incredible. And it truly has some of the most memorable scenes in cinema. However, however, The editing isn't that good. The reason I say this is, while I used to think, oh, it's just holding on these shots to show me every detail and to appreciate the grandeur of big spaceship, I do think that it does make the pace of the movie suffer immensely at points. There's points where the slower pace builds a really solid atmosphere, but there's also points that I feel like it just drags on certain shots. Now, let me be clear. I think this movie is well crafted, and I applaud it for the score, the visuals, and the story is honestly really good. It, I mean, it really made a great book by Arthur C. Clarke. But Kubrick has movies that are longer, or just as long, that I just think are better paced. Barry Lyndon is around 3 whole hours of movie, and it was really engaging. Never felt too slow. And The Shining and Full Metal Jacket are some of the best, most well-paced horror movies I have seen, and are some of my all-time favorites. So this comes with a lot of love for Kubrick, him being a huge inspiration of mine. But the pacing to me is the biggest Achilles heel for this movie, and while my film school fanboyisms of my youth could make me look over these things, my later watches just haven't had that same magic. I don't know. It's a little unfortunate, but at the same time, I don't regret watching it, and I think you should still watch it too. And other Kubrick movies. Because, Kubrick is, the Kubrick of his time. He's not the Scorsese of his time, but who could be the Scorsese of their time? Except Scorsese. Anyways, they're great. And for the last movie, drum roll please. Nobody, even Star Wars fans, will never see coming. Revenge of the Last Jedi. Okay, so I really liked this movie when it came out. It was the prettiest Star Wars movie out there. The effects were mostly practical and had some. So, I really liked this movie when it came out. It was the prettiest Star Wars movie out there. The effects were solid. Really good practical and CG stuff all around. I mean, this movie looks like over $1 billion. And, over $1 million. It also takes a lot of big, bold swings and left turns in the story. The Luke and Kylo storyline that shows us 3 different versions of the same tragic events, characters being put into tough moral conundrums, and some really solid, memorable fight scenes and confrontations. Yes, I will consider the guards, fighting Rey and Kylo to be a lightsaber scene. I mean, come on, man. They're basically lightsabers all the way around. Stood out to me a little bit more, the Canto Bight stuff. And while it still has some of the best moments in Star Wars, there was just too many missed opportunities and wasted space that made later watches just not as exciting. Going from a 9 out of 10 movie out of the theater, eventually to a imperfect 8. It's really good, but it had its problems, to eventually kind of being a more of a middling 6 or 7 out of 10. The good elements of the movie never changed, but the iffier moments unfortunately became more in my face. It's definitely not the worst Star Wars movie. I mean, Attack of the Clones still exists. And it's got more thrills than The Phantom Menace. It felt like watching Return of the Jedi a bit. It had amazing fights and confrontations that felt super rewarding in the moment. But it also had characters shoehorned in, like the Ewoks, the Porgs, and all that. It had some comedy that could be hit or miss, depending on the day. And while Return is definitely more of an 8 out of 10 than Last Jedi's, I'd say 7 out of 10, maybe a low 7 out of 10. It's not bad. And the moments that I love will always remain that way in my mind every time I watch. I think the movie isn't as bad as Star Wars fans make it, but I also don't think it's as good as the people who just love this movie.
Turning the lightsaber to
Movies 3 through 9 are still miles more entertaining than other movies out there. Hmm. I don't think I got nearly as much hate on that.
Chapter 6. Therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Christ, let us go on and
Control Z. And there we have it. A video that didn't take me several months to make, and I may have lost any hope of being loved by film fans and soy boys and, well, Star Wars fans, I guess. I'll give it till episodes 10 through 12. And all 9 Star Wars movies will be misunderstood masterpieces that surpass storytelling, space, time itself, and, you know, make me go woo 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 oh wooga 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 wooga.
turning the lightsaber, turning the lightsaber, turning the lightsaber, turning the lightsaber, turning the lightsaber.
Anyways, watch whatever, especially these movies, and remember, the door is always open at the room Doom Bebop. At the Doom Room Bebop.